business. There is no billionaire in the entire world who owns 100% of the business they are associated with. None. Mark Zuckerberg, in terms of Facebook, in fact, let me just to be precise, Jeff Bezos owns 12.7% of Amazon. Elon Musk owns 13% of Tesla. Bernard Arnault, the one for Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, is the richest man in France actually. He owns 46% of LVMH. Warren Buffett, the renowned investor of Berkshire Hathaway, owns only 16% of Berkshire Hathaway. Larry Ellison, the one for Oracle, owns 35% of Oracle. Bill Gates, I talk to you now, all of you know Microsoft is owned by Bill Gates. He owns less than 1% of Microsoft. Coming to Kenya, when you ask somebody who owns Cooperative Bank, they tell you Muriuki, the CEO. He is actually from here, Nyeri. He owns less than 5% of Cooperative Bank. But what is 5% of Cooperative Bank? A bank with a market cap of around 20 billion Kenya shillings. 5% means he is going to over 6 billion Kenya shillings. 5%. Now you with your 100% of your business, how much is it worth? There is a friend of mine who is also my mentor. Can you tell me by a show of hand who owns Equity Bank? By a raise of hand, tafadhali. I'll pay something for that. Naona wakikuyu ni wengi hapa mkono. Who owns Equity Bank? Monga. Very good. He is also a good friend of mine. So hata nikimkute hapa, he will not be offended. Somebody else who owns Equity Bank? Yes? Mwangi. Can you start? Asita kuita hapa. Najua public speaking, you can't ambush somebody. Who owns Equity Bank? Please rise up, my sister. Who owns Equity Bank? Monga. You said Peter Monga. Now listen, my brothers and sisters. Mwangi, the CEO of Equity Bank, owns 5% of Equity Bank. And all of you told me he is actually the owner of Equity Bank. If you look at the financial statements of Equity Bank, you realize the top shareholders of Equity Bank are not Kenyan. They are fads, including Norwegian fad. Do you know Peter Monga now owns less than 1% of Equity Bank? Now keep your 100% of your business. In business, and niliacha kuongea sasa mtu wa kuanza kiosk. Tumesema Mungu anatubariki to start chains. Is that so? Don't seek to own a fish pond. Seek to own just as rice of the ocean resources. Because the fish pond utaweka net, utasweep all your resources in there, and you have to give it months. Dive into the ocean. You are just given a slice, but that slice is worth much more than having many fish pods. And how do you do that? You have a business here. Mambo yote hata nimesema ya bookkeeping is combined. You have a business. You've started, let's say, of making yogurt, making organic soap, of making whatever you may think about. Now you are already progressing. There is so much market, but you can't satisfy. Now out of your bookkeeping, you realize your business is now worth 10 million shillings. But do you know what? You are already feeling very wealthy. And you cannot release. Hii kitu nimeanza na jasho sana. Mimi siwezi leta mtu wa kunisubua. A different person, what do they do? You look for an investor and bring you 5 million shillings into that business. It's not going to your pocket. But you give them 10% of that business. Now, if you receive 5 million shillings for 10% of that business, the valuation of that business becomes instantly 50 million shillings. You use this money to expand other markets, to expand your operations, to buy more machinery. Later on, you get another investor. Now you've already grown, even people are noticing your brand. They come in, they give you 20 million shillings, and you give them a 20% of your business. If a 20% of your business is valued at 20 million, instantly your business becomes 100 million. So even if the percentage continues to diminish, the aggregate continues to expand. Now, umepata kazi juzi, bank. You are now doing business very well as a contractor or anything else. Your first money, what do? Buy a plot. Then after buying a plot, build flats. Guys, my brothers and sisters, big companies like the one I quoted, including Equity Bank, including their own headquarters, is leased. They don't own. So you want to tell me, in your mind you have more CFAs, you have more actuaries, you have more financial advisors than Equity Bank? Old Mutual that bought even UAP here in Kenya. Old Mutual, you know it, is bigger in South Africa. Old Mutual, I saw in the Business Daily this week, they have put up for sale all their real estate assets in the entire East Africa. Wanasema, please come and buy. Hatutaki. Do you know, including that landmark Kitol building in Nairobi? Ile Christmas wanawekaga vitu hivi mataa mingi tunaona huko. Hata hiyo wanauza. You can go buy. Maybe it's around 5 billion. Now, this is a company that is already divesting from real estate. And I am saying that with all due respect with my brothers who are in that business. I'm now talking to the buyer, not the seller. Other than the house that you live in, and other than the farm that you need, what is this plot you have in Kitegera, and the other one in Kamuru, and the other one in Kigajo, and the other one in Narumoro? Ni ya nini, ni ya kufanya nini? I am not saying that I am an oracle, but I just want to tell you, mimi sina pahali nachukuaga rent. Because you realize this business of building things, building, you are actually doing it for the satisfaction of the people who live in, not for you to make money. Because the return on investment on a flat, the return on investment is less than 8%. People will keep saying, oh, 12 or 15%, toa yote, and you give it time. It will oscillate and still settle down below 8%. That is the math even Equity Bank does. Badala ya kuown building, ati tunasema Equity HQ at all building or the 5 billion, mwaki ana order, 5 billion ata ni kired micro loans. They'll give me an ROE of double digit, maybe 15%. Why can't I lend you the 5 billion mukiwa wegi? By end of the year, munilipe interest, let's say 18% of 5 billion is how much? 900 million. Why can't I give you, munilipe 900 million per year, then nilipe rent 400 million, then 500 million in faida? Let me ask you, when you build a house anywhere, including anywhere in Nyeri, your utility as an investor of that house is only the money you get, because you have no utility of living there. So your math must be very direct. Musianza hizo vitu kuwa sensational, owning a flat, nini. Let's be practical. You have 8 flats, manyumba mrefu hivi. Do you live there? So why did you build? To make money, is it? Is that the most optimal manner of putting your money? That should be your only consideration. Now, usileta emotions. Because if you live there, you can justify and say a utility of a house where you live cannot be justified by how much you are getting. You don't live there. You've not been there for 6 months. Your caretaker lives there more times than you. Then, watu hawapumui, kuna furaha tunacheka ingine, and munaonaga all my friends who build, they are always on phone. Mwaga mchanga, kakoto, there is always a story hapo. Mahiga macio nĩ mwaiga kĩthimithie. Even if you want to own that flat, why can't you invest where you are getting double digit? After getting that double digit, wait for your brother ang'ang'ane na simiti kuibiwa, ang'ang'ane na nini. Wewe ukipata ROE yako ya 18%, after 5 years, through the faida peke yake, uende ununue akuwa amechoka on your behalf. Fanya hesabu, my friend. The other thing is that you do not need to use your money all the time. I do a lot of mentorship for university students in my office. And when they come, everyone, when they want to start a business, it is ni kama kamanyu kanapeanwa pahali. Sasa nikimaliza kuongeleza hivi na venye nimejikakamua leo, hata siongei siasa ati ni juu ya biashara. Then nikitoka hapo unajua utaniuliza aje, okay, umeongea vizuri, where do we get capital? That is the question that is almost resonates every time. Nitatoa wapi capital? Na mimi wacha nikuulize, capital ya kufanya nini? Because that is the what you need to answer. All that, when you get somebody asking you, nitatoa wapi capital, hana idea. Because if you have a very well polished idea of a business, believe you me, you'll attract money. And money is not just borrowing. There are many models of financing a business, and they are in Kenya also, not just in the US. Facebook never became Facebook because it was Facebook. Facebook became Facebook because people like Peter Thiel is a venture capital, invested money in Facebook back then. By the way, mathematics. Peter Thiel invested in Facebook $500,000 and got 2%. But I need pole pole. You mupate what I'm trying to say. And the other point I talked about 100% of the business. Peter Thiel, there's something called venture capital. And there is something called private equity. There is something called angel investors. What do these people do? They come, uko na idea poa, which can be commercialized. They give you money to start, but other than being alone, you seed a stake in your company. You seed a stake. Stake means a shareholding. So you seed. Once you seed, so biashara ikianguka, you don't owe that guy anything. But if the business does well, they are part of that business. So Peter Thiel invested $500,000, got 2%. Just a few years later, Facebook got listed. After listing of Facebook, he sold 2/3 of the 2%. This is a point I want you to understand. He had 2%. He had bought all of it, like I told the pesa ya Kenya, 500,000. Hata tuseme ni ya Kenya. 500,000. A few years later, Facebook got listed. He sold 2/3 of the 2%. At how much? $625 million US. Now, what am I trying to say? If the Facebook founders never needed the money for Peter Thiel, Facebook would still be your 100% owned company now. It will not be the global company we know. The intersection of the